This is Frank Nunez with Teaching University. And in this lecture today, this is actually going to be a goal setting workshop. And this is really one of the most important lectures I think I've given this year, where we're really going to set the foundation for how we can build a goal setting machinery where we can make 2023 really the best year yet. And that's something that I aspire for all of you. And really, for me, this is more of a personal exercise as well, because obviously I also have goals and desires I wish to accomplish. And this is really an opportunity for all of us to kind of really reflect on what we've accomplished this year and really what we're looking forward to accomplish the following year in 2023, or any year for that matter, whatever year you may be watching this lecture. But I think it's important that we set a strong foundation for how we can move forward and live the best life that we can. So for many of us, all of us have set New Year's resolutions. Obviously, when the new year hits, we have our goals, which is the usual suspects. We want to lose weight and get in shape and improve our health. We want to earn more money, get out of debt, improve our relationships, our spirituality, or it could be any other specific goal, whatever that may be. We all have the set New Year's resolutions. And in the beginning, maybe we start off on a strong foot. We go to the gym, we'll eat a little bit better, maybe we'll take action steps, move in the direction of accomplishing our goal. But then after a period of time, maybe a couple days, weeks, or months, eventually we fall off the wagon and we end up getting frustrated and disappointed because we're not getting the results that we want to get. We get impatient, or we just get bored, where really just after a period of time doing the same monotonous routine leaves us feeling like we're just not fulfilled. And as a result, we don't end up achieving or accomplishing many of the New Year's resolutions that we set out in the beginning of the year. The reason this happens, I think that there's a number of reasons, but I think one of the bigger ones is that because we have these mental processes that we engage in that lead us to get certain results in a given day or period in our lives. So when we think and act the same way habitually every single day, we get the same predictable results. So in order for us then to change and to accomplish our goals and really take our lives to the next level, and whatever aspect of our lives we want to improve, we have to start thinking and acting in new ways. And more specifically, we have to create the conditions where we create leverage that really motivates us to push us to going after what it is that we want. And how we create leverage is by answering or asking ourselves this very simple question. Why? Why is it that you want to accomplish this particular goal? Whether it's to get in shape, to earn more money, to have certain relationships, romantically or professionally, to travel, maybe you want to purchase a new car or material possession, you want, whatever it is that you want, really you have to ask yourself why. Why is it that you want this thing? Why is it that you want to accomplish this goal? Because in order for us to achieve these goals, we have to give ourselves very compelling reasons to take action in the direction of where we want to go. If we don't give ourselves enough compelling reasons to accomplish a goal, we're not going to do it. So that's how we can create leverage. And what do I mean by that? Well, to quote Tony Robbins, he says that the secret of success is learning how to use pain and pleasure instead of having pain and pleasure use you. If you do that, you're in control of your life. If you don't, life controls you. So then change happens when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change. So what Robbins is saying here is how we create leverage is using pain and pleasure to our advantage. We look at the decisions that we make on a daily basis. Many of the decisions that we make is to maximize pleasure and minimize pain. And some of these decisions are productive and actually help us, like whether it's going to the gym, deciding to interact with strangers and try to develop empowering relationships, to eat better, to take more initiative at your job, or take some calculated risks to improve your career, personal life. But then there's decisions that are counterproductive, or addictions for that matter, that we may think give us temporary pleasure, but in the long run give us pain. But any way we slice it, we make decisions that maximize pleasure and minimize pain. So then in order for us to change, we have to use pain and pleasure as leverage to entice this change, where we have to associate pain with staying in the same or living the same life, or moving in the same direction we've always have been, and associating pleasure with taking the action steps necessary to change. So to give an example of this, we'll look at Ebenezer Scrooge here from A Christmas Carol. We're all familiar with this story, especially during the holidays. But with Ebenezer Scrooge, he's obviously as a character this greedy old miser who's basically cynical of the world. He's greedy, is obsessed with money, and really has very little interest in participating in the holiday season and really living life where it's filled with abundance and love and peace and harmony. He's sort of just someone who is very materialistic in many ways. And in a lot of ways has squandered his life. But then he is introduced to three ghosts, the ghosts of past, present, and future. And when he's introduced to these three characters and these three ghosts of the past, present, and future, he is exposed to a massive amount of pain because these three ghosts basically help him realize that he has been essentially wasting most of his life, obsessing with money and greed rather than celebrating and living in the moment and celebrating love with romantically with his friends, with his family, and to enjoy life more. He begins to realize that he squandered most of his life and he experienced so much pain that he was forced to change. And of course, we all know the ending of the story where he ends up embracing Christmas and he becomes this completely different character. He becomes jolly and just joyous in celebrating Christmas in the holiday season. But ultimately, he experiences so much pain that he is forced to change and make decisions to move him into a more pleasurable state. So this is one example where in order for us to really go after our goals and fulfill our resolutions that we set for the new year, we have to create leverage and associate a massive amount of pain to inaction when we don't move in the direction of where we want to go. And another example, this is really more of a personal one, and I'll use this clock as a form of symbolism here, where in the fall of 2020, of course, we all know how 2020 was like. That was a really rough year with COVID and the shutdowns and everything. It was a really, really rough year. At the time, I was working as a writing instructor at a local community college. And when schools reopened here in Florida, I returned to campus, and where I worked was at the community college library. And to get into the library, you basically had to be buzzed in because of all the COVID protocols. Basically, it was like walking into a prison, basically. When you walk in, there was only a handful of people in the library at the time. I came in early in the morning. And when I went into the writing commons, the tables where I would normally work with students, there were plastic dividers on each table. We would separate the students if we had to work in person. So it literally felt like a prison. And I remember sitting in a chair in the writing commons, and I was the only one there, and there was no students or anybody. And all I could hear was the ticking sound of the seconds hand of this clock that was hung on the wall beside me, which looked almost identical to this one that's in this slide. And I remember sitting there and just hearing that seconds hand ticking away. And I sort of that moment was a revelation for me where I began to realize that was my life ticking away. And that at that time, I just wasn't living life the way I wanted to live it. That I felt like I just wasn't accomplishing the things that I wanted to accomplish, that I wasn't living life on my terms. And I felt frustrated, and I felt that someone being in my 30s, my late 30s, that I just didn't feel like I was being my authentic self, and I wasn't using my fullest potential to improve various aspects of my life, financially, personally, etc. So it was at that moment that I realized that was my life ticking away and that I had to take action. So I experienced pain essentially in that moment where I realized that I needed to make decisions to change. I could no longer accept the status quo of my life, and I had to change. So this is just another example where as we embark on the new year, or it doesn't have to be in the new year per se, it can be in any moment in your life, at any time where you have to start realizing that the clock is ticking and that perhaps there's some aspect of your life that you wish to change and that you need to begin taking action. That if you don't take action, then you'll experience more pain down the road because eventually your life will not change. And if we don't grow, as Tony Robbins says, we die. So it's creating leverage, using pain and pleasure to our advantage. So an example of this, and let's say as a goal, you want to lose 10 pounds. I would say you should have a more ambitious goal. Maybe you want to gain more muscle, or you want to develop a more muscular physique. You can get as specific as you want, but for this case, let's just say you want to lose 10 pounds. So for a lot of people, when they set this goal of losing weight, maybe they'll go to the gym for a period of time and they'll eat a little bit better, but eventually they fall off the wagon. So in order for us to ensure that we stick to this goal, We associate more pleasure with taking action and losing weight and getting in shape. So, how do we do that? Well, we associate pleasure by saying if we lose weight, what are the benefits? Well, we can reduce the risk of acquiring an illness down the road. We can attract a romantic partner because we feel more confident, because we're improving perhaps our physical appearance. We feel better and look better. We have more energy. And with these pleasure points, we can dig even deeper. Well, why do you want to reduce the risk of illness? Well, so that you can grow old and that you can watch your children and grandchildren grow. So that why do you want to attract a romantic partner? So that you can build a legacy and you can share your life with somebody that you love and care about. Improving your physical appearance. Well, why do you want to do that? Maybe perhaps so that you can feel more confident and you can be more athletic and compete in competitions perhaps. And also so you can have more energy so that you can be better at your job, have more energy to accomplish other goals. You see how we can dig really deep here as to the why we want to accomplish this goal. And we give ourselves enough compelling reasons to pursue this goal. It will move us in the direction where we want to go. And we'll be more enticed to take action in that direction. Now, when it comes to pain, what happens if you don't lose these 10 pounds? Or to flip it another way, what happens if we don't take action in losing weight? Well, the pain could be that you could increase the risk of serious illness, where down the road, maybe it can reduce your lifespan, or you'll be bedridden, or you'll have to spend a lot of money on medications and going to the doctor. That can be very costly. You can have less confidence, and with less confidence, you won't have the self-esteem or energy to pursue other worthwhile goals. You won't have the juice to live a passionate life. So again, you could see just a couple of examples of the pain that you can experience if you don't fulfill out this particular goal. So this is how we use leverage and pain and pleasure to our advantage to take action steps to fulfill a particular desire or goal that we want to accomplish. So this is a quote from Richard O'Connor from the book Rewire: Changing Your Brain to Break Bad Habits, Overcome Addictions, and Conquer the Self-Destructive Behavior. He says that we have a plastic brain that changes in response to our experience. It bears repeating. The brain doesn't tell us what to do. It is part of a system in which our life experience teaches our brain what to do. So you can practice mindfulness, willpower, overcoming procrastination, other healthy new skills with the confidence that you are changing your brain. Each day's practice does some good, and if you slip and fall off your diet or exercise program or mindfulness practice, all that you have learned before is not undone. It's still there in your brain waiting for you to get back in the saddle. I love this quote from Richard O'Connor. Because what happens, what causes us to really fall off the wagon when it comes to, or no longer pursue a particular New Year's resolution or goal, is that maybe we make a mistake. Maybe we're on a diet and then maybe we eat something we're not supposed to eat, or maybe we're trying to improve our finances and we make a mistake or a bad investment, or we spend too much money. We make some mistakes, we get discouraged, and then we quit. And the fact is that this process is not about perfection. You're not going to be perfect, especially when it comes in personal development and improving yourself. It does mean sticking with it, that if you do make a mistake, you fall off your diet or exercise program or whatever it is that you're doing, you can get back on that saddle. You can keep moving forward. And what I love about this quote also really stands out is that the brain doesn't tell us what to do. It is part of a system in which our life experience teaches us, our brain, what to do. So many of our beliefs are based on our experiences using our senses, our five senses in our interaction with our external environment, and how we respond to the experiences in our lives, and more specifically, what we impress on our brain. So more often than not, we're acting on autopilot, where many of our behaviors are completely oblivious to us or totally unconscious. We simply react to the events of the day. And what O'Connor is saying, that if we are to then improve and get better and overcome self-destructive behaviors, bad habits, and improve our goals, we must be much more deliberate and mindful in what it is that we want to accomplish. And this takes some work. This is really, this is not necessarily easy, but it is doable. But it does require practice. That's why meditation, journaling, and mindfulness, where you become aware of how you're thinking and the results or lack thereof you're getting in your life. But by becoming aware of this and by acquiring knowledge, just by watching this lecture, which I recommend you watch several times, so that you can really get really hardwire this knowledge so that you can develop these new skills without you even realizing it. It becomes second nature to you. And persistence also goes a long way in this process. So then, as Joe Dispenza says from his book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, so if we want to change some aspect of our reality, we have to think, feel, and act in new ways. We have to be different in terms of our responses to experiences. We have to become someone else. We have to create a new state of mind. We need to observe a new outcome with that new mind. So if we are going to change our lives and make 2023 our best year yet, we can't expect to do it by thinking and acting in the same ways that have given us the same predictable results in the past. To change our reality, we have to change our to change our reality, we have to change our personality or some aspect of it. And that goes back to what Mr. O'Connor was saying in the previous slide, where we have to practice mindfulness, be persistent, and really begin to think and act in new ways that can encourage new results and get back on that saddle if we do make a mistake, but being much more aware, as I said, or observe our lives from an outside perspective and see that if we're not getting a desired result, we can pivot and think and act in new ways that can create a new reality. And a lot of this has to do with perception. I think the mistake that we make is that to change our external environment, we just focus on what's happening outside of us and we try to force outcomes. But to change our reality, it requires then going within first and overcoming the insecurities and self-limiting beliefs that have been holding us back. So David Goggins, who was a former Navy SEAL who wrote the book, You Can't Hurt Me, and I think he also came out with another book as well, who says that before you start a goal, let's take care of our insecurities because they are going to surface when you put yourself in the crucible and you're suffering. So what Goggins is saying here is that before we start a goal, we have to be honest with ourselves about where we are in our lives, in our current circumstances. There's sort of this Pollyannish viewpoint of positive psychology or positivity, where we just have to shut ourselves off from what's happening in our lives. And that's not something that we want to do. We have to face what it is that we're dealing with here, whether it's poor health, whether it's financial trouble, a toxic relationship, or an unfulfilling career, or maybe just that we're just not using our full potential. We have to be honest with ourselves so that we can move in the direction of where we want to go, so that we know what it is that we want. So to use this overly simplistic graphic here that I created, we can look at the bottom of the screen. And this could be our current circumstances. So our current circumstances could be maybe we're at a job we don't like, or we're having financial problems, we have debt, or maybe our relationships, whether romantically or professionally, are not what they want to be. Maybe where we would like to have some more material possessions, improve our health, travel more, or maybe we want to go back to school and we don't have the means to do it. So whatever that may be, we're in our current circumstances, which if you're watching this video, chances are there's something about your life right now that you wish to improve. And then on the other side of the screen, on top of the screen, that star there, that's your dream life. It could be that maybe your dream life is to be a professional athlete, to start a business, to be a multimillionaire, to be with the love of your life, to go back to school and be a doctor, to travel, to race in the Monaco Grand Prix, whatever that may be, that is your dream life. And that gap that separates your current circumstances from your dream life is what creates so much frustration and anxiety and disappointment, because we have this dream life, we have these goals, but we don't know how to get there because there's nothing to validate that what we want is possible. And what I argue is that the reason why we want to accomplish a particular goal is because of how it makes us feel. It puts us in a particular state. So the first step towards moving in the direction we want to go is that you're not going to know every step along the way. You just got to take that first step. But more importantly, you can begin feeling empowered right now. If you want to be financially independent, you can feel rich and abundant right now, because ultimately it's feeling a certain way. That's really what we're after. And we can put ourselves in these states by thinking and behaving in new ways, and begin to ask ourselves those empowering questions. What would it feel like if I was wealthy, or I was healthy, and so on and so forth? And we can bring ourselves into those current states, or those states that we desire right now, and feeling as if the wish is fulfilled. And that helps us or primes us to create this new reality. So then to create this new reality, what is it that we need to do? Well, we got to take massive action. We have to start moving and move in a direction where we want to go. I'm not saying we have to burn ourselves out or we have to, you know, take action to the point where we dismiss every other aspect of our lives, but we need to start taking action and putting, or to put it another way, making success a priority in your life. Making success a priority. And now I use the word obsess. I think the word obsess has a negative connotation, which I think is unfair. We want to become a little bit obsessed with our goals and desires, not to the point where they control us, but that we want to improve our lives and we want to grow. But to grow and to take action does mean getting a little bit uncomfortable. If, for example, you want a new relationship, it means that you may have to start talking to strangers, talking to somebody that maybe you find attractive at a party or a coffee shop. And that's a little uncomfortable. But you got to put yourself out there and you got to take some calculated risks. But you'll find that when we get uncomfortable and we start taking more risks, we enter these states of flow where we're in the present moment. We're not living in the past or worried about the future. We're in the moment because we're focused on the task at hand. And that starts with taking some risks. And when we enter these flow states, physically and psychologically, things begin to happen. We're really in the zone and we feel almost unlimited and invincible in a way because we're controlling our consciousness because we're focused on the task at hand and taking risks. So then ultimately, now that we understand that we need to take some risks, we have to take action and get a little bit uncomfortable and recognize where we are right now in our lives and use leverage to accomplish what we want. Ultimately, then we have to ask ourselves, well, what is it that you want? What do you want to do? Who do you want to become? What would you like to have? Where would you want to go? Do you want to own a mansion on the beach? Do you want to have $1 million? Do you want to be in great health? Do you want to be married to the love of your life and have a family? Do you want to help others and create a legacy for yourself where you've made an impact for your community, made a dent in the universe? What is it that you want? And I think this is really a fun exercise. And this is where I encourage you, and maybe you want to pause this video and sit down for a moment and then just write down what it is that we want. And we can break this up, and we're going to go over in a couple lectures really how we can break up our goals. But just sit down and write what it is that you want, and don't think too much about it. Just write. What I would do is I would set a timer for maybe 5 minutes and just write as fast as you can and as much as you can as the kind of life that you want to live. And when you do this exercise, really feel the words. Feel that what it is that you want is already here now. Imagine that you did accomplish these goals. How would that feel? And doing this exercise enough times can help us, really inspire us to take action and feel and help us overcome some of the frustrations that we'll inevitably experience as we pursue our goals. So Grant Cardone, in his book, The 10X Rule, says that average is a failing plan. Average doesn't work in any area of life. Anything that you give only average amounts of attention to will start to subside and will eventually cease to exist. And I think this is a great quote because I think one of the big reasons also why so many of us struggle with accomplishing our goals, especially our New Year's resolutions, is that we only give average attention. We sort of think about what we want to do, but we leave it, we push it aside because we get distracted and get busy, more than likely with stuff that has very little to do with improving our lives in some way. You don't want to settle for average. As I said, you want to become obsessed with accomplishing your goals and living your best life. Where at the very least, you want to focus on becoming the person that will create this new reality. So you don't want to settle for average. Even let's say with finances. And if you haven't noticed right now, the world is getting more expensive. It's getting more complicated. And if you are serious about building a good financial platform for yourself or financial life for you and your family, you don't just want to settle for average. You want to have big goals, big dreams that will push you and motivate you to take action. So to quote David Schwartz from the book, The Magic of Thinking Big, he says that you should believe big. The size of your success is determined by the size of your belief. Think little goals and expect little achievements. think big goals, and win big success. Remember this too. Big ideas and big plans are often easier, certainly no more difficult than small ideas and small plans. This really stood out to me, that having big ideas and big goals and taking action on these big ideas requires no more effort than pursuing small ideas and small plans. So why not just shoot for the stars and have big plans, big goals? Now, what deters people from doing this is they feel like, well, it's you don't want to be unrealistic. Well, how do you know it's unrealistic? Chances are this perception is based on some self-limiting belief you developed over the years, based on the disappointments that you've had of the past in that particular area of your life. So we even want to start questioning our current beliefs, which probably are not empowering us. So you want to have big ideas, big plans. As I said, what do you want to do? Think big here. So here I've kind of broken down how we can break up our goals. And again, maybe if you paused the video before and you wrote down some of your goals, that's great. You can always go back and revisit that exercise and break up your goals here. But I've broken up into 4 categories through personal development, wealth and career, material health. And of course, there's a spiritual aspect of that as well. We can always add to that. You can also lump it into personal development. But we can see here we want to break up our goals of what we want to do, not just in next year, but beyond. You can break up these goals into 1, 3, 5, 10, 20-year increments of how you want to plan out your life from now for the next 20 to 30 years, depending on your time frame. So some examples of goals here, like for personal development, maybe you want to improve your social romantic relationships, take more action when it comes to dating, etc. Maybe you want to learn a new language or skill. You want to go back to school, or maybe you want to start a nonprofit or work in a nonprofit where you can help underprivileged folks. When it comes to your wealth and career, maybe you want to get out of debt or earn $1 million in income in 1 year. Certainly, it may seem unrealistic, but as I said before, based on what? Why not? Have big goals. Maybe you want to get a promotion or a new career or start a new business or start a nonprofit or a charity. When it comes to the material, what is it that you want to buy? Maybe you want to buy an exotic car like a Ferrari. You want to travel to Europe, own your own private jet, purchase a beach condo, or eat in an expensive restaurant in Paris. When it comes to health, it could be losing weight. Maybe you want to compete in an athletic competition, increase muscle mass, join a gym, learn how to swim, get leaner, develop abdominals. Again, we can get as specific as you want. But the goal is here, we want to be specific and clear about what it is that we want. If we don't know what we want, if we don't have goals, then life, we just become a victim in a way. And that's the last thing that you want to be in life, is a victim. When you have goals, you set the ball in motion where you start to take control of your life. And goals are really a means to an end. Ultimately, the purpose of goals is by becoming our authentic selves, to be the real you. We become the best version of who we want to be. And that's ultimately the end game of goals, and to live out our best life possible. So as Neville Goddard says, the great secret is a controlled imagination and a well-sustained attention. Firmly and repeatedly focus on the object to be accomplished. So we look at Grant Cardone in a quote from a few slides ago. Okay, you don't want average attention or average focus. You want to really begin to obsess about what it is that you want to accomplish, and use your imagination. All of us use our imagination on a daily basis, but more than likely we use this imagination that's counterintuitive. We imagine worst case scenarios, or we imagine in our mental studio situations that don't empower us. We totally neglect our goals and what we want to accomplish and how we want to live our daily lives. And we instead imagine really images and sounds and things that really just don't really help us all that much. So it's about using our imagination to empower us. And more importantly then, imagination is nothing more than sensory states. Learn to go beyond an idea by feeling its reality. So you can't intellectualize this process of goal setting. And I think this is a mistake I've made for a long time. And I think a lot of people make this mistake, that they just write down their goals and they kind of go through the motions. No, you got to feel this. You got to feel that what you want is possible, not just mentally, but physically. Imagine for a moment if you were a millionaire. What would that feel like? physically. Maybe you would feel lighter, less stressed because you no longer have to worry about bad debt like credit cards or whatever. You have the ability to take care of your family. You can have more freedom to do the things that you want to do because you're in a fulfilling career. Maybe you feel like the hair stand up to the back of your neck because you can't believe that you accomplished this. You feel euphoric, where you can just do anything. You have a quicker pace to your step. Whatever that is, think about the physical sensation. What does that feel like if this desirable reality is here now? And this is very important. We got to feel this stuff. It's not just intellectualizing this, because as I said, there's nothing in your environment initially that's going to validate that what you want is possible, that your goals, your resolutions that you want to accomplish, there's nothing, at least at the moment, that's going to validate that you can do this. So that's why holding on to this vision of the future is so important, and feeling like this future is now in the present moment. So then Brian Tracy says that the great summary statement of all religions, philosophies, metaphysics, psychology, and success is this: you become what you think about most of the time. And I think he's paraphrasing Earl Nightingale in his work, The Strangest Secret, where he says that you become what you think about. And your outer world ultimately becomes a reflection of your inner world. Your outer world of experience mirrors back to you what you think about most of the time. Whatever you think about continuously emerges in your reality. So what you obsess about, all of us obsess about things, whether we realize it or not. It's just unfortunately many of us obsess about things that hurt us instead of help us. We obsess about our debt. We obsess about what we don't have. We obsess about the job that we don't like. We obsess about the bad news that happens around us. When you turn on the news, all this negativity. We obsess about things that don't matter or don't help us. Instead, we should be obsessing about and putting all of our mental energy on the things that we want to accomplish, on the person that we want to become, and living in the present moment, where there's no past and there's no future. There's just right now. And that's where I think not just the psychological and philosophical, but the metaphysical part comes in. Because once we align ourselves to what we want, and we impress upon what we want to God, or the mystery of how our universe and our world was created, this intelligence that exists, and we impress upon it and communicate with it how we want to live our life, then we can see change. And we begin to see then in the grand scheme of things, we're not just insignificant beings in this vast universe of ours. All of us have a role in making the world a better place. And it starts with realizing that you have the power to change your life, and not only to improve your life, but the life of others. And that really the world is in the palm of your hands. And you have the ability to create the reality the way you would like it. And that no matter what has happened in the past, no matter all the disappointments, all the bad events that have happened, all the mistakes you've made, now at this very moment, that's over with. And from now on, only good stuff is going to happen in your life, because now you have the power and the knowledge to change and become the best version of yourself. Thank you so much for watching this video. I appreciate all of your support. Without you, this channel would not be possible. I wish you the best new year, and may 2023 be your best year yet. And I look forward to creating future lectures that will make 2023 and beyond your best life. Thank you so much, and Happy New Year.